Thank you very much for joining us here. My name is Ilona Selke, and we are here for the Dream Big Summit, interviewing Dr. Vern Wolf, whom we visited in person. He's been my most outstanding mentor in my life and has created the vastest impact, as far as I know, here on Earth. We're going to be talking about how to unfold the potential of your dreams, how to create from the inside to the outside with scientific backup. Dr. Vern Wolf, who is a 6-time PhD, who has four times PhD. We are honest here. Who has developed and spearheaded holodynamics and taken it all over the world, and has the scientific understanding, and that's what we're going to ask him about, consciousness and science and why things manifest. Vern, I just want to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for being willing to stand up to all the forces of religion, of contradictory science, of governmental forces, to say what you know is true, to understand that consciousness creates reality, and that we are liberated the moment we tap into our full potential self.
True.
So
just a fact.
It is just a fact, but it is something that sounds, we've heard it before, but it is so powerful. When I first heard you speak at the Psychotronics Association in 1987, I listened, and I chronicled that in my book, Wisdom of the Dolphins. My hair stood on end. You said, dip your cup into the sea of potential, and things will unfold. So I would like you to run with anything you want to share with us today about time, space, black holes, consciousness, gravitational fields, and how things matter.
Okay.
All right.
You might want to take a look at the interview that you have on your Messages from the Soul website, because it introduces pretty much how we all started. But that was also years ago. And so since that time, certain things have happened. And one of my biggest possible dreams I could ever hope for has now been accomplished.
Which was?
To end all the wars.
End all the wars, yes.
I may not sound like it because the mass media is controlled by the leftovers from those who were creating the wars. They're called the elites or the cabals, or the Dracos, who are alien species that have been trying to enslave humanity for 12,000 or so years. And they've never been defeated in all the galaxies until now.
I join your club. I'll join that parallel reality of realities. So tell me about reality. What is it? What is consciousness? Why things manifest when certain people focus their attention. And many people are sitting there going, I wish, and don't get quite going. So I want to also keep it practical, but I want to make sure that we understand some of the physics. So where would you say we should start? Maybe
let's start with time.
Okay.
What is time? We know that there are 3 dimensions of width and height and breadth. Mm-hmm. And then there's motion, and time is a measure of the motion. So if you take a book like James Campbell's book on My Big Toe,
mm-hmm.
which I think I have
which is right behind you there, I see it.
Take this book. This guy's a quantum physicist, but he's really quite thorough in his presentation. Mm-hmm. And when you've had a little bit of physics, like I've been fortunate enough to have, then you can understand it. And he concludes with this. This is a holographic universe in which the field of consciousness is producing the form of everything. And it's all connected, and it's all interacting, and it's all individuated.
Okay. Can you
individuated. You're different than me. I mean, we're both
right.
humans, and we're different. Even if we were identical twins, we would be different. There's no 2 things exactly alike anywhere. Not even 2 snowflakes. Now you think 2 snowflakes would be the same, but they're not. So all you have to do is do what Emoto did and take a look at pictures of them, and then you notice this. It's water, like a drop of water, and you hate it, it changes its form. And if you love it, it changes it into another form. Now, the chaotic form of hate is created by your focus of your attention on the hate. But and it makes the water responds.
Right.
And so does the rest of the universe, because we're all connected.
So when you say, what's his name? Campbell says we are individuated. I love that word because a lot of people ask, okay, so let's say, I might be jumping ahead here, but if, let's say you changed your perception of what is around you, your holographic projection, right? You're affecting change in the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
Like you focus on a little drop of water and make it love. Well, you can take that to greater and greater outreaches.
You're getting it.
So do we have, when you speak of individuated consciousness, do we have multi-omnicentric realities all intersecting? In other words, when...
They're in perfect correlation.
Like say you create a world of peace and harmony, but let's say somebody else would like to learn about war and killing or whatever they need to learn in order to grow their soul awareness. How does that work together on the same planet?
That's a good question, because it depends if you know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you really? Are you this mortal body? Or are you more?
Right.
So when you say, well, maybe I'm more because there's something inside of me that, is trying to make my body do certain things or inspiring me to do it, giving me information. I'm receiving what's traditionally called revelations or information or insights or deep driving missions of some kind. Mm-hmm. That may draw you into wars or may cause you to marry or be involved with somebody who is the exact opposite of you. Mm-hmm. And causes endless wars with you.
Right.
So to get the answer to your question, you must step out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you step out of time, because like Stephen Hawking says, time bends.
Right.
It's associated with light, and even light bends. So, if you look at his drawing out of his book on the universe in a nutshell, here's what he drew it like. So, if you look at this and you say, okay, what do we got? We got this little choo-choo train here, and it's going on, this is the present, say, and you look back, it's fading, and you can't quite see the past very clearly, and then you look future and you can't see the future very clearly either. But if you have a little time helicopter and you step out of time, then you can visit any of those dimensions.
It's over the event horizon and therefore invisible to most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's step back into
That's
that
a scientific statement.
So so let's say we step back outside of time or into the full potential that exists outside of time, then it can choose from a multiple palette of realities.
A matrix. It's called.
Matrix. Okay.
So you can choose from a matrix, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now suppose you chose consciously to go to your place of planning.
Mm-hmm.
Now to do that you must understand who you are first. Because who you are will take you there. And we call that your core essence of your being.
Right.
Or some people call it the soul. Or we call it the full potential self. Because it's quantum physics with potential driving everything and kinetic energy being part of that. So it's like the kinetic energy or information systems, because they're more than energy. Mm-hmm. So the information systems of you. And then we find out this. They look at what happens to the DNA. The DNA, like the DNA is responsible, they say, for my body, for the color of my eyes, hair, and all that kind of stuff, for being a male, everything, okay? So, did my full potential self in hyperspace actually have anything to do with that? Mm-hmm. So yeah, what they find is, in looking at it, that when the DNA is being formed, it's a double helix feedback loop, but it has places where it has to form conjunctures.
Conjunctions, yeah.
So you say, so right in front of those conjunctions when the protein chain is growing, appear two spinners.
Now
these spinners are what they call active forms of information in motion. And they're able to come to a point And so they call them spinners. Mm-hmm. Two of them form right in front of that. And they make the conjunction.
So it's spinning fields of information that activate a certain DNA expression.
Right.
Yes.
And so what happens then? What happens then is the DNA grows, and then it forms the RNA, and then it forms the
cells.
50 trillion cells that become your body.
So you have a technique of affecting these spinner fields.
Nothing to it. It's so simple, it's almost pathetic.
That's the part. It's so simple you can teach it to children. However, knowing that you have access to the 0 point of consciousness of the field prior to manifestation is the art of understanding how everything in the holographic universe can be shifted to a higher, fuller potential. So can you walk us through it a little bit?
Sure.
Since it's so simple?
Sure.
Yes.
Can you imagine a place of peace?
Yes.
What's your place of peace like?
Well, for me, I'm in knee-deep in crystalline blue water with white sand underneath and a jungle beach behind me with palm trees and glistening sunlight.
And how do you feel?
Phenomenal.
And is your full potential self there with you?
Yes.
Can you imagine that?
Yes.
What's she like?
Well, actually, the first thing, since you asked what is it like, and I referred, it feels more like it, but it was like a fountain of light, like a
fountain of light.
Fountain of light.
Welcome to your full potential self. She's a fountain of light. Now, what kind of characteristics does she have?
First word that comes out is humbleness, kindness, loving, joyously giving.
So you know her?
Well, I get all those qualities, yes.
Sure. They're coming through all the time. I've known you for years. And they've always been there. So you're known. Guess who you're known by? By the way, was that hard? Was that hard to do that?
No, that was easy.
Oh, do you think it'd be easy for anybody if they just opened to it?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, guess what else you can do? Does your full potential know mine?
Yes.
They've been friends a long time.
Yes. Oh, you want to know what I see with your full potential? Wow, a multi-dimensional helix that has a brilliant starlight in the center, like a ball of brilliance light, like a diamond, and then all these spirals extending into the sphere of cosmos.
I'm just a country boy.
Yeah, that's all right. It's not even a he, my dear.
That's right. So this being of this full potential self is a dimension. It's real. It's causing things to happen. It's causing the DNA to form in you. Mine caused the DNA to form in me, and they're individuated. Now some people will say, well, they're all the same. They are similar, but none of them are the same exactly.
So when we go to that place, you say that that's from where we have causative effect.
That's what's caused us. Now my question is, did it cause anything else?
How does it work outside of time? How does it create events to seem synchronistic?
That's where the new book, Future Pull, comes in. Because they represent the real essence of reality. And it's like Stephen Hawking says, if you look at this and you see, I think it's page 198 or someplace like that, but if you look at his book and you see what he says, then he says what Plato said, that basically we are like shadows on the wall.
Right.
And what's happening is the real us is actually projecting from
another. Yep.
So you look at that and you can see that
the projection onto the wall is what we believe to be ourselves.
There's us.
Yep.
And here's the real us.
Right.
Now this is one of the finest minds in the world saying that, from studying all these different dimensions of reality. Books full of pictures, it's great to read. So you look at it and say, maybe the Jesuit rendition of the Catholic Church was created by Rome to make the Holy Roman Empire, so that under the sign of Christianity cross, you could conquer the world.
Right.
Maybe there was an ulterior motive there, especially when you understand that the Jesuits were really quite known as scholars who were experts at deception and assassination. And they set up a system for genocide and pedophilia and separating every person from the real self and all that kind of thing, so they could enslave humanity. Now that was just one part of it, because there were other beings from other worlds who were also helping them do all this.
But in your whole concept of cosmology, anything that appears as bad, evil, negative, is just spelled backwards, like evil is live. And how do you access the positive potential of what appears to be negative as a duality, as an aspect of the one and the same?
It's really quite simple.
Okay, let's hear it.
Go to your full potential self and you ask. I can give you thousands of examples of how we did this.
Yes.
How we transformed the whole Soviet Union because of it. And how the rest of China and everything else, all these nations have been changing.
Yeah.
And our teachers have been everywhere, and they're invisible. They're like Santa's elves. You never know who they are, and you never see what they do.
Right.
But the toys always show up.
Right.
And so it is with their gifts. And so the future is actually causing us to create a basis for them, so they can not just survive, but really thrive.
Right.
And with this other system that we've been talking about, the evil one, or whatever you want to call it, the Jesuits call it that. But if you look at nature, out there's no evil and there's no good.
Well, I mean, a tree decaying or death of the tree might be considered evil, just depending on how you look at it.
Scientifically, it's called entropy.
Right.
It's
So
erosion.
exactly. Can we then separate evil from the concepts as we carry it and just call it entropic behavior or
Syntropic behavior
syntropic behavior
versus synthesis.
Yeah, syntropy.
So you have decay and you have birth of life.
Right. Same
So-
like the black hole is the ultimate entropic, right?
No.
No? The black hole is not the ultimate version of entropic force?
Would you like to know what a black hole is?
Yes, please tell me.
Let's take Nassim Haramehn's rendition of a black hole, okay? Now, Nassim Haramehm is the fractal scalar law person. And they have the mathematics, and they showed in their mathematical model how the shape and size of everything is all done according to natural law. And so if you take a single number, like take a stream of random numbers, totally random, created by a computer, and you take one number out of the stream, and you separate it out, you identify it, and then multiply it by itself, you square it, and you add it to itself. And then you let the computer run that. Guess what comes out of the random numbers?
The same pattern. Turtles. All the way down. Mandelbrot. Fractal.
It's called Mandelbrot, but actually it's fractal scalar. It wasn't
Repeats
really
itself.
invented by Mandelbrot. He just took credit for it. But anyway, it repeats itself like this endlessly. It goes into endless bigness and endless smallness.
Okay.
So what's a black hole?
Yeah.
So you take a single, here's what Nassim did. He took a single hydrogen atom. That's the smallest element of the elementary table of chemistry. And then he took a look at it in detail. Looked at the nucleus, and it's supposed to have an electron around there, and he found out the electron doesn't follow a real path around there. It can go wherever you imagine it'll go, but nevertheless, he took a look at the little nucleus, which looks like a little light bulb, and then he went deeper. Guess what he found? A black hole.
At the core of each and every
Atom. Then he looked deeper into the black hole. He found enough mass and energy to completely recreate the universe.
In each single atom.
In each atom. Now, how many atoms do you have in your body?
Yeah, really. Zillions of universes.
And yet in this Kabbalion elite control system, energy is very scarce. We must have the oil, we must have the carbohydrates, we must be able to must. And they put this whole price on everything, and so we are enslaved. We can't drive our car without buying the gas and all that kind of stuff.
So,
But free energy is available everywhere.
so you're saying then when you tap into the full potential, you also go into hyperspace where you have access to other
Sources of energy,
yeah.
other dynamics, other interpretations of a black hole. And that's why Stephen Hawking was one of the ones who said the black hole is actually taking all this light in and then reassembling it and radiating it out and creating another reality.
I think I had just a couple minutes ago leafed through here. Was that in this book? Okay. That was this one, right? The black hole where it zooms everything into its core and then it spits it out, and they say nothing gets lost. I mean, informational fields remain. So they're saying the information retains. Matter gets reassembled. Information retains.
That is correct.
So
You
then,
can't destroy information.
so then what we need to do is go into the space of the full potential, into the hyperspace, and reassemble informational fields
Right.
to create different forms of matter around us.
You asked how that works.
Yes,
okay?
please. That's what we want to hear.
So you notice you have eyes and you have nose and you have mouth and smell and taste and touch. Those are your senses, right? Did you know that Brigham and the boys found out that the senses are all covered with screens? They're called holographic screens. There are two kinds. There are gross grain screens that are wide open, and there are fine grain screens. And so what happens when you see something in the periphery of, for instance, your eye, there are gross grain screens. It takes in the whole picture. Then you focus on something, real detail. And your fovea, at the back of your eyeball, is fine-grained. And it takes in the details.
Okay.
And then the optic nerve, at the center of the optic nerve is the fovea. And around it is the periphery. So the information from the periphery, the whole picture, integrates. And neurologist says there's a fantastic amount of ionic activity going on. And they're actually creating a Gaborian type of transform. Now, Gabor was the one who invented the ability to be able to send messages in 3 dimensions. Fourier developed it in 2 dimensions. That's just on most of our televisions.
Okay.
So when Fourier comes through, the words
see
and
flat
the
screen.
pictures, it comes on a flat screen.
And
But when a Gaborian comes through, it's 3-dimensional.
so it's holographic.
It's holographic. So you can take holographic pictures.
So we see with our mind holographically. That's why you appear 3D.
Right.
Okay.
It goes into the processor, which is called the brain, and the brain then sends it to whatever. If it's vision, it sends it to that. And if it's hearing, it sends it to another. And that's integrated through the neurons into the microtubules. Now, microtubules are exactly what they're described as. They're micro, which means it would take 1,000 of them to make the high size of a hair. But they're very, very small. And if you look at the microtubules, every cell of the body is coated with microtubules. They're networked right through the cell. Okay, well, why would that be so? Because the microtubules contain the holograms, the images you're getting from all your senses.
Contain it as far, like store it, or?
Yes. Do you have a glass of water for a minute? I'll show you this. Yeah, there we go. If you take a glass of water or a cup of water like this and say this is a microtubule. Guess what's inside the microtubules?
Water.
Ionically pure water. Now you know that water can store memory. Would you like half an hour's lecture on how water stores memory?
Not really,
that
just
work?
the essence of it, because we still want to know how to transform with consciousness what appears to be evil into something positive.
Right, so the holodynes then set up information sets. I call them holodynes. And the information set becomes your reference. Now this seems like a microscopic thing, but it is. All living things have microtubules.
So you're saying that microtubules are the lens through which we then interpret what we perceive?
That's right, because they're checkpoints. And they also have openings. So there's sometimes when the frequencies of the microtubules, which are basically Gaborian frequencies, when they're in those frequencies, no, they're frolic frequencies, sorry, they're Gaborian storage units. There's some places where there's nothing, there's like a little black hole in there. So guess what's happening? All the information from hyperspace is coming through the black holes within your microtubules. And then it's being disseminated into correlated integration with all your holodynes. And all holodynes then are helping your body respond to both the information from hyperspace, which comes from your full potential self who governs all that to make sense and correlates everything within your body, and then it goes into all the things you do with actions and beliefs and religions and business and all those setups. So you set them up according to the patterns that are already in there. You're a chip off the old block. You're doing just what your parents did. You're doing what your grandparents did, because all the microtubule information comes through the sperm and the egg. And they'll come, so all the sperm from your father and all the egg from your mother join together to make a whole new set of information. So the babies are unique.
So with this informational field that we inherit, let's call it ancestral memories and maybe even past lives, they influence the way we see life and interact and what we attract and what vibration we send out and what we see, even what polarities we see, right? So the polarities we see depends on our glasses we look through. So how can I put on either a better pair of glasses if I feel like shifting to a higher frequency reality, like creating heaven on earth rather than living in something less than that? The
Earth is heaven. So you say heaven or hell, right?
Right.
Nice polarization.
Right.
No place like, no such place as hell, but they made the polarization so they could be the representatives of heaven and therefore keep you under...
right. Fearful.
Yeah, fearful. And enslaved. So you say, okay, you have to understand a couple of more things. Is that okay?
Yes, go for it.
So one thing is what's called social engineering.
But I want to know how to transform a negative aspect first before we go into a bigger picture. Because the viewers are going like, look, I want food on my table. You know, I want a nice husband or a nice child or whatever, and things aren't working. They need to know how to tap into the full potential. But then when they see negativity, how can they shape-shift reality with that understanding that everything comes from hyperspace?
I understand your question.
Yeah.
I'm answering it.
Okay. All right.
You have to understand that you've been socially engineered.
Have I?
Carefully. Architecturally designed social engineering programs. I've read their manual. I went through their false assumptions. That's in Future Pull, by the way, if you want to know that. It's all in there very clearly. And how they've been engineering your social, cultural whole situation for centuries. So you say, well, what do you do with that? Because if you try to transform anything and you don't understand the field in which you live, then you may be able to start a garden and all of a sudden the weeds all just overcome it. And no matter how hard you try to get the weeds, they always come back. That's caused by the collective field. So you have two fields involved here. One is the individual field and the other is the collective. So we'll call this the individual and we'll call this the collective. Now there are three processes involved. There's the rational process, which got us out of the whole Inquisitions and the Dark Ages and that, and got us into the revolution, scientific revolution, industrial revolution, and so forth. And that was nice, but it doesn't answer the questions. That's why the medical society, which is controlled by the social engineering program, can't heal people. They only become pill-pushing, drugs and pharmaceuticals, all part of it. So how do you create healing? And how do you create deep insights? That's individual. Now there's another problem. If you take this Russian little doll, which I got from Russia, by the way, take the doll and you say, oh, that's a really nice doll, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh.
It's dolls within dolls.
Right. And you look inside. There's another doll inside. You say, oh, what's that? Suppose this is the rational world that now is controlling most of the world, so to speak, or has been, and this is the emotional world. This emotional world is also a problem because it has no solutions. It's only emotion. So you say, I wonder what's inside of that. And that's when you get to presence. That's the core essence of yourself.
Presence.
It's hidden in there. And you have to overcome the effects of the rational and the effects of the emotional before you get to the real.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, how does that work? So there are 3 processes.
Okay.
So you have to use this one, the real one. So you have to go to hyperspace, connect to your full potential self, and then you ask, what do I do? Now give me a problem that you think is very difficult to solve. Just give me an example.
World peace. But let's just say... Let's just say...
that's a collective, so that's
yeah,
part of the whole
so
collective.
let's just say a personal one. What might people have? You know, they have a husband or a wife that isn't reflecting love to them.
So you want love. So guess how you find love?
Becoming love.
You are love. It's not becoming it.
Or becoming more of it so strongly.
You're
so
already
that you
it.
already
The question
see
is,
it.
can you manifest it? Not can you find it.
Right.
If you can't, if you're looking for it, you're like a caterpillar. You just consume, consume, consume. And the caterpillar isn't the butterfly or the butterfly or whatever. The caterpillar is just the consumer. It hasn't made the transition. So how do you make the transition? Because you become love. And you can ask your full potential. You can go to the place of planning, place of peace, and then full potential is place of planning. And you'll find out if you look through the eyes of your full potential self, you will see your partner at his or her full potential self. And you will see this arrangement you made. You will get married and he will be totally unloving, to see if you can handle the challenge of becoming love, even when there's no reason to love, even when there's every excuse not to love, even when it's so terrible you just like to turn into a beast and kill him or whatever. So it's a challenge to your nature to see if you can be present at your full potential. It doesn't mean you have to be stuck with him all the time, but once you discover that he really is this magnificent being who volunteered to be your worst enemy or whatever, then you can come to peace with it and say, well, thank you very much. Would you like some help to become your full potential? You can hold a field for that, but it doesn't mean you have to be bound and chained to it and serve it.
So once you see the purpose and are willing to forgive it and accept it, you're free from the chains that hold you.
Yes. I get thousands of stories about how people have done that. They're absolutely miraculous things, even with hardened criminals or drug addicts or, gangs on the streets or whatever. Terrorists even. It's like it's all solvable. It was all part of our test.
So how about the technique that you call the tracking technique? Tell me about...
Now that's taking, if you take an individual holodyne, let's say this is a holodyne. It's an information system that's not whole. Guess what? It has a full potential.
It too has a full potential.
Everything is. So how do you find the full potential of a holodyne that's not there?
Right. So you're saying to the evil government, how do you look in your full potential?
That's what he did in Russia.
Yeah.
2 years later, they made communism illegal.
Right. They broke down everything that was previously. You went there.
Yeah.
You worked massively there.
9 years. So how do you get this thing so it's back into its whole being?
Yeah. So you ask it, what would you look like? What are you really? Who are you really?
Negotiate with it to become its full potential. And then do that in alignment with your own, so that it has a way to live.
So you refuse to see only half of what is. Let's say, we would call this the evil part. All that it actually is lacking is my perspective of seeing the whole in it, or its full potential aligned to be a complete unit of a fuller potential.
Fuller potential.
So once I'm able to see that, I go like, oh, evil empire, you are really trying to take care of me. That's nice.
That's what the terrorists did. They developed the Order of the River of Life. And they did it in multiple dimensions. So it's not just about getting that one together. You have to get this one, and this one, and this one.
So you go through layers within your own consciousness,
Yeah.
through all the layers of what appears to be half-truth, and find out the full potential of each of the truths to then see the whole on multiple layers.
Of the past, the future, and the present. And you bring the future into the now. And you
So-
transform the past so that the memories are no longer controlling you.
So obviously when I ask this evil Knievel government what it would look like in its full potential self and what it really wants to do, it would give me quite a complex feeling picture. It's not going to be a simple little doll.
It depends if you're ready or not.
Well, maybe everybody has a different representational system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for some people it may seem, it could be a simple symbol, is what you're saying?
Yeah, actually, if you take a look, for instance, in one relive we had in Russia,
Mm-hmm.
it was an 80-year-old woman,
Mm-hmm.
and her whole family was there. So they were women, because most of the men had been killed in the wars. And so they brought her, there's thousands of people there, and they brought her down the steps to the center where the acoustics were perfect. And so they didn't have loudspeakers. And her 7-year-old great-granddaughter was a spokesman because she spoke perfect English.
Mm.
And so she was the voice that guided her through her relive.
Okay.
That's when you go into the past and you
Mhm.
look at what's holding you, blocking you from your past experiences. She took us through the wars that she'd experienced, which was one war after another war after another war. And all the men she had lost and sons and everything else because of these wars. And it was so tragic. It's like, it just made your heart weep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we asked, go to your place of planning. And she did that. And she called forth all the people involved in every one of those wars on both sides.
On both sides.
And then including the ones she had lost. And they guided her through the deal that was made, the arrangements that were made.
To create what appeared to be loss and death and destruction.
And that took hours to finish, maybe 2 or 3 hours. And then she asked her full potential self, well, so what do I do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Guess what showed up? A Russian egg, a gorgeous Russian egg. And it had all these jewels in it, and every one of them so
Oh, that's beautiful.
were memories of what their potential was for all those people.
Mm.
And the whole tree came alive. All of them.
And it was represented as an egg, is what you're saying. The imagery is particular to the individual.
Yeah, it was like a Christmas tree. Every jewel shone.
And then what became of her? What changed in her life?
Everything. And everything in everybody's life. In the audience. We all cried. I'm still with the emotions.
Right. Right.
Because it affects everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the transition occurs when you go back into the information field that's blocking you. She became the most loving being.
Really. And the transformation of understanding that the polarity which she had seen as evil Knievel overcoming her life, when she saw it from the place of planning, she saw the gestalt of love expressing itself in a less than mature way, but eventually
You became
all
love.
meant to be for her to grow into greater ability to love.
That's right.
So when she had arrived into carrying that super conscious awareness of being love, how, and from all the other people that you've seen go through that transformation, tell me what did change in the outside world for her? Maybe just one or two things, or in her case or another case.
They divided up the Soviet Union into the Russia and the republics. They exchanged all the land, that's 60% of the land mass of the planet, 60% of the land mass of the planet, from total dictatorial control to people. They distributed it to all the people. They made communism illegal, and they ended the Cold War. Anything else?
So the shift of reality comes about when enough people, is it one or enough people? Is it the numbers or is it...
Thousands did it, so I mean hundreds
it becomes
of
a
thousands.
collective field that then affects
Becomes a
the larger
collective
field.
So when you do it as an individual, that affects it. And it sends out the ripples. It's called the rippling effect, the butterfly effect, whatever you want. Like when one butterfly flaps its wings, it affects the whole environment. So you say, okay, when one person changes, they all change.
So
They get the message.
can you step us just for a few steps through some of the steps that you've described here in the book Holodynamics? The tracking technique, just a little bit, the concepts of shifting from...
There are 3 steps, okay? 1, go to your place of peace, call up your full potential self. 2, ask your full potential self if you can go on a journey. Will your full potential guide you? Identify what the journey is and have your full potential guide you.
That's the relive part of going into...
That's tracking.
tracking. And then how about...
Relive means you're just tracking
through lives or through... Right.
different dimensions.
And I love the fundamental question that you have in there when you encounter, let's say, a negative belief carried over from ancestors.
Oh boy.
What do you say? You find it, you go like, oh, I feel this anger inside of me when I think of it, or whatever encounter, triggers it.
You surround it with love, because you are love.
But what about a person who can't remember they were abused, they feel this anger, they take this anger outside?
Do you want me to answer things, or do you want to just keep storming me with questions?
Yeah, I want to know how to do it, because people want to know how to do it, and I'm going to get it out of you. I mean, people can read it in your book, but I'm just thinking
I was going
for
to finish that answer, but I wasn't finished. Okay.
All right, go ahead, go.
I don't mean to give you a hard time, but...
You're not. We're playing well.
So look, once you recognize that you are a being of light and a being of love and all that kind of thing, an intelligent being, you have an everlasting life, and
right.
you can't be destroyed, and all those kinds of things we've already talked about, and they're all outlined in these books, but say, okay, when you come to something like some little, say, negative, a downdraft thing, okay? Say, what's your potential? But to do that, you have to be able to talk to it.
Right.
Like if you're with a child and the child is having a temper tantrum, what do? If you put them in their room and isolate them till they cool down, or you can say, ooh, I love you, and this takes intelligent love. It takes effective love. So you can say, could you scream a little louder? You can do a better job than that, can't you? And how about a little growler? Can you growl a little more? And you start to describe for them what they're doing. And they start to say, what are you doing? Does it have a color, this feeling? And as soon as you ask them for a color, yeah, it's red! Can't you tell? And they can just be the anger, and you just are not affected by the anger because you are a being of love. And you're an intelligent, effective, loving person. And so you say, well, when did you first feel that? When did that start happening in your life? Can you tell? How big is it? Wow, it's the size of a house. Whew. Do you know that's a really good sign? Because anger is just love hidden. It hasn't come out yet. So your love is bigger than a house. Wow, I always knew something that was true, but I think you're bigger than that. I think you're bigger than the house. The real you is bigger than the universe. Would you like to know about that? So you can ask this house, red house, if it's willing to just find a more effective way to get what it wants. What does it want, by the way?
Right.
You just have a chat, just like you do with one of your kids.
Right.
So you have a chat. Find out that anger wants to be successful, or the anger wants to be right, or the anger wants to have justice, or the anger wants to have love, or the anger, you find out, oh, so you want to have love? Okay. How could you do that? Do you think you're going to get love from somebody else? Or do you think that there's something inside of you that is love? And all of a sudden they're going, oh, why would you want love if you weren't love already? Do you want to be a leech and try to get love from somebody else, or do you want to give love, which would be truer to your nature? And just like that, they'll get it.
And it transformed from what was a dense energy to an expanded energy.
So you introduced the expanded sense of it to the limited sense.
Right.
And ask if it wants to
Become the expanded self, and it always does.
Yeah, it's natural.
So then you take what a contraction is actually just a super identification with matter into its original form, which is the full potential.
If you look at Hobbes, and you look at what he did with that hydrogen atom they took out of a tumor, the tumor was so deadly it was killing the person and had a few days left to live. So they said, okay, I'll be part of your experiment. He took one hydrogen atom out of the main tumor that was causing it all, put it into an ionically pure bottle, petri dish of water, and then resonated the actual frequency of an original hydrogen atom. Holographic image of it.
Wow.
It did what they called time reversal.
Yes.
It came out of the form it had taken in the tumor and went back to its original form. They called it time reversal. So then they took it back out and put it in the tumor. In 2 days, the whole tumor all over the body had disappeared.
Wow, because it resonated to all of it.
It resonated to all of it, and they all went back to the original state. Now, is there a cure for cancer? You can do it with your mind. You know, you gotta go to a place like Irkutsk. It's got a couple of million people, but it's got a huge city center that's made of white marble. You don't go to New York or any place. There's magnificent buildings in Siberia near Lake Baikal. And they caught holodynamics. They call themselves a holodynamic city.
Really?
2 million people. So they kept getting these messages, my coordinator kept getting these messages. Ask Dr. Wolf if he can come, ask Dr. Wolf if he can come, ask Dr. Wolf if he can come, please come and see our city. Come and see our center, our office. So finally I'm going by airplane. We say, okay, why don't I drop in there and see what they're talking about? It's 55 below zero.
In Irkutsk?
In Irkutsk. It's the middle of winter. And it gets really cold. It's in Siberia, and so in the mountains. So they made me wait. I could tell you the whole story, but they made us wait, and I was freezing, and I had a nice fur coat, but it was like nothing. Then they made us wait outside.
I know.
They brought a little train. We had to wait, and it's cold all the way through, and finally we get in the center of the airport center, and it's not even heated, and so they depend on people's warm bodies to get. And they would have pencils. They didn't have any computers. It took us 2.5 hours just to get me through the line getting there. And then somebody held up one of these books. And I didn't even know who they were until they held that book up. So they got me in a car, all of them just dressed in total fur, and took me to this little restaurant, and then they put me by a fire. And I began to thaw out. Anyway, we had dinner and stuff, and then they were all laughing, and there was a translator and couldn't keep up with them. They're so excited. So then I get to the city center. It's this huge building. It's 14 feet high, great wooden doors, golden handles, or brass, I guess. And out comes the mayor. He's silver-haired and dressed in a pin-striped suit. Just a perfect gentleman. Dr. Wolf, we're so glad you come. He says, let's get out of the cold. And he takes us in, takes our coats off, and then there's a big auditorium room. So I walk over to the auditorium room, and he opens the doors, which are also 14-foot doors inside. He opens these doors, and there's like 200 or 300 or 400 people. It was a whole group, not a sitting room or standing room anywhere. And they started clapping. 10 minutes. Have you ever heard of a 10-minute ovation? I'm going, it was almost overwhelming. So then we made our way during the, they never even hesitated. It was so loud. Anyway, he stands up. He made another mistake. He says, how many of you have been helped by holodynamics? Yeah! Another 3 minutes. I'm going, oh goodness.
Really?
Genuine people.
The entire city had taken on holodynamics to transform itself.
I said, how did you get this message?
Yeah.
Went through this hour and a half with them. It was really exciting, excellent, intelligent questions. And at the end, Maria came up and said, would you mind if we had a hug line? They all lined up at the hug line. First lady was 6'2" about, and had streams of coats and jewels. Dr. Ruth, I'm very wealthy, and I had a kidney ailment, or a liver ailment, sorry, liver, and nobody could help me. I went even all over the world to your Mayo Clinic, whatever it's called, and so forth, and nobody could help. So I came home to die, and then I met Maria. She taught me to track. And I healed my liver.
Wow. Yes.
And she just hugged me and cried. Maria had to come and separate because my shoulder was getting wet. It's like, you know, that, and there were hundreds of them.
Wow.
I was crying.
Wow. Wow.
Right along with them. They healed every disease.
So in all of these transformations, you taught them how to access the full potential, which operates
Hyperspatially and spatially.
Hyperspatially into the spatial
It's present
reality.
and hyperspatial at the same time. And that's why time is the critical factor.
And
You must understand that time
Right.
is manageable.
It's like the time body is the full potential?
Never heard it that way.
No, or beyond time?
Beyond time.
Okay.
Your body is your body is something we've created here in our mortal state.
So let me ask you the final question then here for this segment. Where is the full potential located? And I'm saying it like that because I've asked people, you know, where is soul or your soul located? And I phrase it like that. It's a little bit misleading, but give me your answer again the way you would give it.
I'll give you an answer stepping out of time, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's in time and out of time at the same time.
Yeah.
It's totally in your body. You have 50 trillion life forms in there, 50 trillion cells, and 5 trillion life forms that are all communicating at the same time. Who do you think correlates that? Your full potential self. And you have all this information coming from past and future, and it's coming in, and they want you to get it. Who do you think correlates that and sends it through the microtubules? Your full potential self. So, where you say, where is it?
Yeah.
Where isn't it?
That's a good answer. I love
It's
that.
both in and out of time at the same time.
Everywhere.
So, get out of your time blocks.
Then when you say the government forces that try to suppress people tapping into their full potential,
It's the best kept secret on the planet.
then actually the remedy is to constantly become fully awakened within the full potential.
And when you do that, all your dreams can come true.
Yeah.
Because you'll be guided by your full potential.
And you can access that which appears to be negative and find out what its full potential self is.
And wait till you find out what happens. Because now, my dreams have come true.
Mm-hmm.
And they were bigger than I thought. They had rippling effects. So,
Right.
what do you hear about that one? We'll do that next segment or something, okay?
Okay, all right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for this segment. And I love that I called you the time traveler in my book, Wisdom of the Dolphins, because at the time you were traveling in Russia and I couldn't get you to sign off the book with your name plastered all over, so I had to make your name always be the time traveler. And then when you finally came back, my book had been in print, I got you. And then we reconnected through that. So thank you for being my time traveler.
Thank you for carrying on the mission.
Thank you. for
You
years.
and Dawn.
Yeah.
You're great.
Thank you. Thank you. Based on your garden, and based on the fertile soil that you created, we grew a sunflower. Namaste. Thank you very much for having listened to this segment with Dr. Vern Wolf on creating a better life for yourself and the planet